Hello everyone and welcome to another collections showcase, and today we have various 5-inch prototypes, all enemies of the Doctor if you like. So we have two Autons, the Master obviously, and a Scarecrow. So we're going to start by looking at the Autons. So first up here we have the Autons. Now on the left we have a 1970s, or I say 1970s, that was the name of the set, the B&M release from the 1970s set, which featured the Brigadier, the Talons, 4th Doctor, and the Auton. And then on the right we have the earlier release of the Enemies of the 3rd Doctor set. Now on the left, the 1970s one, as I'm just going to refer to it as, what makes this prototype piece, or at least at the very least a pre-production piece, is the notable differences of the lack of paint application on areas of it. So the scarf is the same unpainted as the main body. As you can see on the hand, there is no blue from where the hand is unfolded, the Auton hand, and also it doesn't have the silver actual gunstick painted on it, and also the shoes are unpainted as well. So it's a very, very simple variant, which shows its unpaintedness and prototypeness, as it were. But it is one that is certainly a nice one to look at. It is one of those ones that's just nice to have on the shelf because it's something a bit different. You know, you look at it and you think, oh, that doesn't look like anything in particular, and then you get a closer look at it and you realise it is something different. And then on the right, as I said, we have the original Enemies of the 3rd Doctor set, which to the untrained eye, or the people who don't necessarily know what the proper one looks like, it doesn't look that different. However, the differences in this are very, very subtle, and it's because this appears to be a sort of promo version. I know someone else who's got one of these, and so I think maybe it was like an early test batch or something, but the head and the hands are noticeably much shinier than the released version. Unfortunately, I don't actually have an actual release version to hand. I should have got one. I should have tried to get hold of one. But if you look at the released version, the head is much more sort of matte, as it is on the 1970s one on the left. But the other noticeable difference this has as well is that it has the black shoes, whereas the release version has silver shoes. And unfortunately, I didn't manage to get hold of this piece, but the other person I know does have one of these, also has, if you look at the promo picture for this set, it comes with the Auton sphere, which is actually transparent clear rather than transparent pink. As I said, unfortunately I didn't manage to get hold of one of those. It would have been nice to get one with the set, but it certainly does seem like, you know, that it was something that they did produce, and like I said, they possibly did it as a test batch or something, and this is just another one of those ones that's just cropped up. But yeah, again, you know, it's a very, very subtle difference, but it's quite a nice one, because again, you look at it and it looks like something normal, and then you take a closer look, and if you know what you're looking at, it's something a bit different. And yeah, it's not really a lot to say about these two. It's just, you know, it's one of those ones that you just, you know, I come across them occasionally, I think, oh, that's a bit different, so I get it. You know, that's pretty much all I've got to say on these. Next, here we have a Scarecrow from Series 3, but this is the, well, I say lesser known. It's fairly well known amongst the prototype circles and people that collect these things, but to the people that know the releases, they might not know it. This is the lesser known Beige release. Obviously, we had the two standard releases. We had the one in the red and the one in the sort of brown, and then the one in the dark blue. And a beige release was planned. It was prototyped up, it was put in a packaging, and again, I'm guessing that maybe there was like a test batch, or there's a few of them, because I've seen a few of these over the years. I know for a fact there's more than one out there. And for whatever reason, it didn't get released. But again, it's a very nice little variant. It's very nice that it's something a bit different. This is one that I was very dubious of at the start when I first saw it, because I have seen a few people paint standard ones up and make them look like this. So again, anything like this, I'm sort of always slightly skeptical, but I don't know how easy it is to capture on camera. I can't probably bring it in that easily. But again, as usual, you look for the telltale signs on these things. So for example, the join work underneath the arms, that's always something that's missed. The little bits like the torso underneath the head. I haven't wanted to dismantle this for obvious reasons, but you can just fold, you know, bits of it up and you can see that these are all the right colours as they should be, or it's all solid colour, you know, and there's no telltale signs where there's original paintwork showing through. So it certainly does appear to be a genuine one. And again, you know, there's nothing particularly hugely special about it, but it's a nice little extra one to have in the collection, because I know it's one that, you know, people are always on the lookout for if it ever crops up, and you do see them occasionally, not that often, but it is a nice, again, another nice one to have as part of my collection. And lastly here we have the prototype master, which is the one in the center. I've brought in the other two because it's an interesting comparison to do between them. So on the left we have the Keeper of Traken release, which is the Jeffrey Beavers one. It had the slightly darker and slightly different sculpt of the head. In the middle is obviously the prototype version, and then on the right is the original Crispy Master release with the sash of Rassilon, and he also came with the Staser, but I haven't got the Staser to hand. I've probably got one in the bottom of a box of spares somewhere. So in the middle, as I said, we have the prototype version. Now, it seems to obviously be a version of the Peter Pratt Master on the right, the Crispy Master, but the cloak is much more darker, more akin to the Traken one on the left. Obviously, the Crispy Master version on the right has a much more sort of weathered cloak and things like that. But the other noticeable difference about this as well is obviously the sash and the Staser are unpainted plastic. They are just the standard sort of grey plastic and unpainted. But also the head and the hands are much darker than the Crispy Master release. And I'm just going to do a quick close-up on the head, because there's a couple of other little details that I just want to show on the heads of these, which is interesting to note. So as a close-up on the heads, one thing that you might, I don't know how well this comes up on camera, it's really difficult to see on the small screen, but the teeth and eyes on the prototype version are much more yellow. Obviously the head is ever so slightly darker in terms of its sort of weathering and things like that, and also he has brown irises, which are quite a bit larger, rather than the standard blue ones. And I also have here, because there have sort of been several tonal differences between the releases of the Crispy Master head. I actually have here another spare head, which if I bring in, you can see the difference again. The one on the right is the original release, which is slightly darker. This one in the middle was the later B&M release, which is slightly lighter, and then obviously on the left we have the prototype one. And what I think, and I'm still looking into this, it's very difficult to find sort of sources on this sort of things. You do just have to ask around and see what people know, but I think this prototype version on the left might actually be a original test prototype pre-production, whatever you want to call it, version of the later B&M release. Because when you look at the later B&M release, again, unfortunately I don't have one to hand, but when you look at that particular version of the Crispy Master, who didn't come with a sash of Rassilon, does come with a darker cloak. And I think it possibly was the case that maybe this was one where they were contemplating adding in the sash and the Staser as an accessory. I don't know. As I said, I'm still trying to look into it, but it would sort of tally up with what there is, and would explain why there are why the look of the cloak is slightly more darker as well. Because when you look at the cloak of the original release on the right, it is actually, the plastic is slightly lighter in colour. So it seems odd, but not impossible, or I should say it the other way around, it's not impossible, but odd that they would have done a plastic in a darker version originally and then decided to change it. Again, it's not impossible. This could be one of the original releases, but yeah, either way, it's one of those things that it's great to have because, again, it's a nice piece of collection. But I do like something that I've got to put a bit of research into, and you know, I'm intrigued to see what I can find out about this one. As I said, I've had it for a while, and I'm still looking and seeing what I can find. If I ever do find an actual proper source for this, I will put the information in a pinned comment down below. So check that out. It might already be there by the time you're watching this video. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's a very nice, interesting one to have. And again, it's something a bit different, and it's always nice to have a good, proper, you know, one of the proper villains. Because I've got lots of Doctor figures. I've got one or two sort of other, you know, random figures. But then, you know, I've got my painted Yana Master, and I've obviously got this one. It's nice to have some other characters other than the Doctor in my prototype collection. But that brings to a close another collections showcase. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. And be sure to description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.